Scott Jennings is always awesome, but yesterday he had an epic performance across CNN, various things that you've got to see, and you will, coming up in just a moment. Also, Harmeet Dhillon, we love her. She had her confirmation hearings, and it did not go well for Democrats who tried to get her because she's the one who's doing the gotcha right now. She's the captain now. She's the captain now. And we answer the burning question, who at this moment is in fact the dumbest Democrat holding elected office? There's a lot of candidates, but we've narrowed it down, and we're going to figure it out coming up in just a moment. We're brought to you by Birch Gold. My name's Larry O'Connor, and you can call me Larry. Thanks for watching our live stream today, and thank you for liking and subscribing and sharing our show and letting your friends know and your family members know that we do something a little different here. And we have a lot of fun, and we all end up a little smarter at the end of the show. I hope so. I know I feel smarter at the end of it. So thank you for being a part of what we do each day. Now to our friends at Birch Gold. You've seen the news, right? Economists are forecasting a depression, not a recession, a depression by the year 2030. How is that possible? Well, you got Social Security and Medicare at a crossroads right now. They're hitting a breaking point. The largest generation of retirees about to hit retirement. And then, of course, a smaller workforce generating a smaller tax base. Pair that with growing national debt, rising cost of living. We have a problem. And I know we're waiting for our elected officials to fix it. How's that working out? How much confidence do you have in that? How about you take control of what you can do right now to protect your family for the future? Gold can be a safe haven in hard economic times. Birch Gold makes it easy to diversify a portion of your savings into physical gold. Birch Gold will help you transition an existing IRA or 401k into an IRA in gold, physical gold. And it doesn't cost you a penny out of pocket. Protect your future today. Text my name, Larry, L-A-R-R-Y, to 989898. And here's what's going to happen. You're going to get free information so you can get smarter. You're going to get a free info kit on gold. Plus, you're going to get a copy of the book, The Ultimate Guide for Gold in the Trump Era. That's got a foreword by Donald Trump Jr. There's no obligation here. We're just giving you information so you can be smarter and you can make a decision. All right, text my name, Larry, L-A-R-R-Y, to the number 989898. Do that today. The only reason to watch CNN right now is to see Scott Jennings, and he delivered yesterday. Let's get right to it. Our man, your fave, maybe the next senator from Kentucky, Scott Jennings.
Be real for a moment that Doge is not about cutting money, right? It's not about spending. It's about shrinking government so that it'll be too small to stop Trump with whatever else is in this plan.
Why would the government stop Trump? Isn't he the head of the government? You're saying the government would be too small to stop Trump. If Trump's the president, why would the government, the bureaucracy, be actively trying to stop him?
Because they want to shredding the Constitution and creating an authoritarian dictatorship. That's why.
And no matter who is in office, I'm going to hold them accountable. But more importantly, I'm going to make sure the government is working for the American people.
Both of you all made an interesting point, which is that your view is that Trump is shredding the Constitution. I'd like to hear more about that. But that it seems to me that you all both believe that the unelected part of our government, the bureaucracy, has a responsibility to resist the political leadership. Is that your view?
That's not actually
what not at all.
We said they are up.
No, actually, that's precisely what they just said. You just saw it. We put the edit together so you could see what they said, and then Scott Jennings specifically saying, so wait a minute. Toure, that's the African-American gentleman. It's no reason why you don't recognize him. He had a show on MSNBC about a decade ago and he's disappeared, but now I guess they're trying to revitalize him. That's right. He wasn't good enough for MSNBC, but now he's on CNN. Toure, one word, accent drop over the E, said that it's incumbent on the government to stop Donald Trump. It's incumbent on the government to stop the duly elected president. Scott Jennings just sort of held a mirror up and said, look what you're saying here. And now they're denying it. But it gets even better because Scott Jennings, well, I mean, he has ears, he has a mouth, he has eyes. And unlike his panelists here, apparently, he has a brain.
Holding the Constitution, the principles of the Constitution. And at times,
how is Trump shredding the Constitution?
Oh my God, he's like,
I mean, seriously, do we have to give you a civics lesson that we have?
I don't know.
We put all power in the executive branch. The legislative branch the FBI. Now we're in control of the military,
Yes.
silencing media.
Commander-in-Chief,
This
head
is
of the
what you
military.
do
Yes,
in a
Supreme Court of
dictatorship.
powers.
Did you see what he said there? Oh, the executive branch has too much power. Now he's taking control of the military. Yeah, you know, it was downhill from day one when George Washington took control of the military when he became president. And I mean, it's never been the same. It's been an authoritarian dictatorship, right? By the way, these people pass themselves off as intellectual. They actually preen in their Upper West Side apartments or when they go to their studios, either in Washington, D.C. or in Manhattan. And they talk amongst themselves about how they're the enlightened intellectual ones who have to better inform and educate the unwashed masses. You know, you people with just a bachelor's degree from some podunk state college, or even worse, what if you only have a high school degree, right? But meanwhile, you know, I'm just sitting here watching Schoolhouse Rock, and I know more about our Constitution than these guys who are now claiming they're protecting the Constitution. Oh, that's another thing. Isn't it rich to see radical left-wing Democrats, liberals now thumping their chests and grandstanding about protecting the Constitution? Where the hell have you guys been being worried about the Constitution? But even then, they get it wrong. Here comes Jennings for the kill shot.
Are you suggesting that the president is not the commander-in-chief of the military?
I'm suggesting that the president is going to put in charge somebody who is going to contravene the Constitution. And at some near point, this conversation will look very silly for you because it will be obvious. And right now, you're gaslighting. But when we get to the actual rubber of the road of this, it will be clear.
I'm interested in this conversation. He's going to put someone in charge who will contravene the Constitution. Like who? What do you mean by that? The president is in charge of the military, is he not? You said he's going to put someone in charge of the military?
The president is in charge of the military. That is how it works.
He was elected president. We, according to the Constitution, vest all executive authority in a president. And the concept that the military should be an independent agency or that the bureaucracy should resist the political leadership of this government is extraordinarily dangerous.
That's just straw
not what
man.
we said. That's literally not what we said.
I'm just repeating back to you your own
I
words.
did.
That's right. He is literally just repeating back to them their own words. That's exactly what they're saying. But then when they're called out on it, they claim that that's not what they were saying. But that's exactly what we've been seeing in Washington, D.C. The resistance movement, resistance to Doge, resistance to Musk, resistance to Trump. They want the government to rise up and, well, resist what the duly elected president is trying to do. And the reason that they have a notion that that could happen is because that is what happened 8 years ago in 2017. But things are different now, and this administration knows what the opposition is capable of and what these people are capable of too, under the guise of protecting the Constitution. Good for Jennings, as always. Oftentimes, and you saw a little bemused smirk on his face, he wants them to keep talking. He wants to hear them say these things, because the more they talk and the more they reveal exactly what they believe and what they don't know or don't understand, the better it is for the rest of us, sane, rational people, embodied in Scott Jennings. In fact, one other clip from Scott Jennings yesterday where he sort of pointed out the lamentable position Democrats are in right now. They're basically rooting for failure, not just failure of Trump's policies, failure for our country, failure for our economy. They're rooting for failure in a peace deal in Middle East and Ukraine. They want things to burn because that politically is to their advantage. That's pretty horrible, but it's true. And Scott points it out.
We're seeing that Americans now are looking forward to perhaps a recession.
Can I respond to some of this? I've sat here patiently for this long speech. So it seems to me that Democrats are taking a three-pronged approach at attacking Donald Trump. One is openly rooting for the failure of the United States by wish casting a recession, which is just an insane political strategy. Number two, wanting to pin their entire political future on keeping government as large or larger than it is now. And number three, continuing to claim that mass deportations or that getting the border under control is somehow a bad policy idea for the United States. I wholeheartedly hope that Maria is appointed to run the Democratic midterm strategy, because if you're rooting for recession, for illegal immigration, and for a larger government, you're going to take a bath next November.
See, this is the problem, because none of that is true, Scott. You know,
I just repeated back to you what you said, and I don't know why you don't agree with it. Those are everything you just said.
No, honey, I did not say that I'm rooting for a recession. Economists are the ones who are saying that a recession is coming because Donald Trump has done nothing about it.
Get your pom-poms. Keep rooting for American failure. It served you well last November.
Yeah, exactly. By the way, did she just say no honey, no darling, no sweetheart? Imagine if Scott had referred to a woman on the panel as darling, honey, or sweetheart. But that's exactly where they are right now. Basically, their position is exactly what Kamala Harris's position was on Election Day morning on November 5th. We're right on immigration. Open that damn border up and let's bring in as many people and deliver amnesty if we can. Let's not deport any of the criminals who are in this country. Let's not do anything about our economy and just ride this inflation wave as far as we can. And that's where they are. Oh, and grow government as much as possible. Their opposition to DOGE, which again stands for the Department of Government Efficiency. The only way to describe DOGE or their opposition to DOGE is to say that Democrats stand for DEJ. That would be Democrats against government efficiency. The last thing they want is a smaller, trimmer, less expensive, and more efficient government. Because in that big, bloated, expensive government, that's where they hold their power. And as we're learning, that's also where they hide all of their money and hide all of their corruption. The bigger the government is, the harder it is to find $1 billion here and $1 billion there. And that's their plan. All right. One other moment here. On the panel, Scott Jennings is confronted with some guy, a professor, of course, who says that we're in the middle of a totalitarian fascist regime. That's what he said. That's what goes for intellectual left-wing political criticism right now. As you listen to this, just think to yourself, does it feel like you're in a totalitarian fascist regime? Does it?
Well, I'm interested in a couple of the comments you made. You said it was destroying the newspaper because they failed to endorse Kamala Harris. I mean, what does it say about a newspaper that you have to endorse a certain political party and for it?
That's not the way it happened. What happened was that the editorial board had an editorial done and ready, and that was the process.
Right.
And then suddenly to say, "Oh, now we're not going to endorse." They've endorsed other things since. It was the process by which it went under there. And there's other things going on constantly in the paper. I now use the hashtags Broken Times and Broken Post. The headlines in both papers, I think, are constantly off, constantly trying to soft pedal what's going on. You're not going to like what I'm saying next. But we are in the middle of a totalitarian fascist coup in this country. And when we don't call it that, when we soft pedal it, when we don't have a real discussion about it. At least here, I could say those words. We can have that discussion, but you will not see those words in the New York Times or the Washington Post.
So, Jeff, if we were being honest, there should be a breaking news banner on CNN and MSNBC all day long.
Yes.
We are in dictatorship right now.
Let me
Actually, I'm pretty sure that is what you see all the time on CNN and MSNBC. You wouldn't know it, though, because nobody's watching anymore, because we're tired of them crying wolf and screaming about such things. It didn't work last time, and it's certainly not going to work this time. That's what you see if you tune into CNN. I know you don't do that. You like to get your news delivered but right here through us, direct streaming, and that's how you should be doing it. It's the democratization of the media, and we love it. But we want to make sure you get a glimpse of it, at least through the perspective of Scott Jennings, the last sole voice of reason on that channel. And of course, they'll just fire him at some point for actually bringing his perspective to the table, because you can't have an opposing viewpoint. That's what that discussion was. This is a fascist regime because the owner of the Washington Post says that he wants his op-ed page on the newspaper that he owns to celebrate liberties, freedoms, and the free market. And that's an indication that we're in a totalitarian fascist coup. I can't make it up. I can't make it up. But keep talking, guys. And Scott Jennings, keep talking back. Harmeet Dhillon is a brilliant legal mind. She's an attorney from California. She's been fighting the Gavin Newsom regime for years now, trying to fix the voter rolls in California, trying to get the government to clean up the streets and the criminal vagrants that were called the unhoused neighbors by Gavin Newsom after millions and millions and tens of millions and billions of dollars been thrown at the homeless problem. Still nothing happening. Harmeet Dhillon, utilizing her law degree, has been fighting against that and trying to protect American citizens. Well, now she's been nominated as the Assistant Attorney General in charge of the Civil Rights Division. She is brilliant. Her confirmation hearing was yesterday. She was questioned by Senator Mazie Hirono of Hawaii. She is not brilliant. Let's be kind and just leave it at that. And the toe-to-toe showdown between Harmeet Dhillon and Mazie Hirono is really one for the ages. Let's watch. Have you got popcorn? You can pause this for a second, pop popcorn, and then come back, because popcorn makes this even better. Let's watch.
For Ms. Dhillon, relating to Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, I think that your position is that Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act requires actual discrimination and basically discriminatory intent before it will be deemed unconstitutional under Section 2. Is that correct? Is that your view of Section 2, Voting Rights Act?
I would say, to generalize, yes, it is.
So that means that unless there's discriminatory intent, unless say state legislature says, yes, we are about to enact legislation that will discriminate against a group, you do not think that Section 2 applies?
I disagree with your characterization, Senator. There are many ways to prove intent other than a blanket statement from a state legislature.
Ms. Rice, let me mention that under President Trump's Attorney General, Merrick Garland, they've filed a number of lawsuits under Section 2. For example, a law prohibiting civil groups from providing food or water to people who are standing in line to vote. There was no discriminatory intent. Would you have filed that lawsuit against that law?
Senator, I haven't had the opportunity to study all of the facts underlying those prosecutions by the Biden Department of Justice.
Excuse me, Merrick Garland also filed a lawsuit under Section 2, state law limiting counties' use of absentee ballot drop boxes. So there are a number of these kinds of voting rights laws that the states enacted after Shelby County, and in fact, 13 states very immediately passed all kinds of laws that made it a lot tougher to vote. So I'm just wondering, how are you going to decide which ones to go after? I mean, these obviously have the effect of discrimination against certain groups, making it harder for them to vote. How would you decide which of these kinds of voting rights laws enacted by states without, the obvious smoking gun?
Well, Senator, I have to disagree with the premise of your question that all of these measures that Georgia and other states took to improve confidence of all citizens in voting, in fact, had any form of discriminatory impact.
Excuse me, I only have a minute. I mean, obviously, there is disagreement. That is the crux, isn't it, as to whether or not these laws actually have an anti-discriminatory effect. And you obviously do not think so.
Wow. I mean... Where do you begin? Who among us didn't want Harmeet Dhillon to take a long pause and a deep breath and look at Senator Hirono and say, Senator, what you've just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul, right? She should have gone full Billy Madison on her. It doesn't help that everything that Mazie Hirono says has been written down by one of her staffers, and they just hand it to her to read, right? It's called a cold read. You caught at the beginning there where she was trying to make a point about Merrick Garland's Justice Department going after a law in Georgia because a political operative wasn't allowed to hand out food or drink to people while standing in line. Remember, they made a big deal out of that. Oh, this is Jim Crow on steroids. You can't hand out water to people while political operatives can't hand out water. You can hand out water to anyone you want, but not if you're a political operative working for a political organization, because that's politicking online. So she tries to make a big deal out of that, and she mistakenly says that Donald Trump's Attorney General, Merrick Garland, because that's the problem. She doesn't think for herself. She reads whatever's handed to her. She's like the Ron Burgundy of senators. It's like she's doing a cold read. We call that a cold read in the business. It's like they hand me the paper for Birch Gold, and I just got to read it cold. She's awful. She's horrific. And Harmeet Dhillon, God bless her, the patience of Job, sitting there and not jumping down her throat and going full Billy Madison. That wasn't the only thing. There was also a bit of a confrontation here with Senator Alex Padilla of California. Let me give you a little backstory because I used to live in California. Alex Padilla is the former Secretary of State. He was appointed as senator when I believe he may have replaced Kamala Harris, actually, now that I think about it, when Kamala Harris became vice president of the United States. Gavin Newsom appointed him to be the senator. He used to be Secretary of State, and that meant as Secretary of State, he was in charge of the voting process in California. Harmeet Dhillon, a civil rights attorney that focused on voting rights in California, went head-to-head with Alex Padilla, often, mostly about the dirty voter rolls. Let me tell you something. I used to live in Los Angeles County. I have lived in the Washington, D.C. area for over 12 years. I still get an absentee ballot mailed to me. I've deregistered. I should not be a registered voter in the county of Los Angeles, and I still get an absentee ballot every day. How many millions of people are like me in California? It's because of the dirty voter rolls. They never go through and purge from people who have moved or are no longer eligible or people who have died. They still keep getting live ballots that can be filled out by God knows who, and then hand-delivered or picked up by the ballot harvesters in California. This is what Harmeet Dhillon has been fighting against. And so they went toe-to-toe here, and most specifically, it has to do with the dirty voter rolls. And Harmeet Dhillon brings up a lawsuit that was settled by the County of Los Angeles. It was brought up by Judicial Watch. Tom Fitton, the guy with the right to bear arms. Tom Fitton and Judicial Watch sued the County of Los Angeles over their dirty voter rolls. County of Los Angeles settled and agreed to purge their voter rolls. They still haven't done it. But watch, Alex Padilla is going to characterize that as a defeat for Judicial Watch, or a defeat in the court of law. Watch how this plays out.
When we had the opportunity to meet in your office yesterday, I gave you one example of California's failure to abide by the NVRA and make its voter rolls clean, and that is 1 million voters, quote unquote, in Los Angeles County alone, which the County of Los Angeles agreed in a consent decree.
So I'm going to cut you off because my time is limited. My recollection is the county agreed to adopt additional practices on maintaining voter rolls. All the lawsuits were unsuccessful.
Did you catch that? The lawsuits were unsuccessful. They reached a consent decree and a settlement before going to trial, and he's characterizing that as an unsuccessful lawsuit. But he just conceded that there are over 1 million dirty voters on the rolls in Los Angeles County, way more in the state of California. He's panicking right now. They're all panicking because Harmeet Dhillon knows that. California, if they didn't get the votes they get in California through their shady practices, this country would look a lot different every presidential election, but also in the House of Representatives. Everybody says, well, the Republicans lost seats in the House of Representatives this last time around, so Trump didn't help them. Well, Republicans gained 4 seats in the Senate. They did lose some House seats in California, but it was always about a week and a half after Election Day when they were counting all of the mail-in ballots and absentee ballots, and then somehow Democrats started to win those seats. That's where they lost seats. Republicans did. If you take California out of the equation, Republicans did fine in the House of Representatives. This is why they're panicked, because Harmeet Dhillon knows this. She's going to be in charge of voting rights, and she's going to go after these states who are violating the law. They mentioned the MVRA. That's the Motor Voter Rights Act. This was passed in the 90s. Republicans went along with this. Republicans, listen to me. Every time a Democrat walks up to you and say, hey, I've got this new bill that's going to make it easier for people to vote, just say no. Because every time Democrats come up with an idea that's going to make it easier to vote, it's rife with fraud. It has fraud built into it. And that's what happened. Everyone's, when you go to register your car or get your driver's license, you can register to vote. It's the motor voter bill. Let's go. And Republicans are like, hey, that sounds great. And look where we are now. State of California, they register everybody, whether they're legal citizens or not. The voter rolls are completely poisoned. And this guy was part of it as Secretary of State. She knows it. She knows where the bodies are buried. And I mean, literally bodies are buried because they're dead people who are voting right now in California. And when she gets in there, she's going to focus on it. She's going to fix it. It's a game changer. So watch where this ends between the two of them.
Well, that's not
in-
true
in-
factually, Senator. Actually, I've won
in-
several lawsuits against California at the United States Supreme Court during the
In
time
the
that
interest
you
of
were
my
the
time
Secretary of
left, a
State.
couple of
Yeah, that's not true. In fact, I've won plenty of lawsuits all the way up to the Supreme Court, and you know it, you lying bastard. I wish she had added that, but she's too polite. I'm not. Harmeet Dhillon, you know, she challenged Ronna Romney McDaniel to be the chairwoman of the RNC back in it was 2023, I believe, coming out of the 2022 midterms. Ronna Romney McDaniel, she gathered all of her forces. She got her cronies. She maintained the gavel for a year until she had to step away. But that probably was the best thing for this country. Otherwise, Harmeet Dhillon would still be the chairwoman of the RNC, and she wouldn't now be on the brink of fixing so many of the voter problems that we have in this country now that she's going to be the new Assistant Attorney General in charge of the Civil Rights Division. What a glorious, glorious change. Thank God for that. Democrats are terrified. And a lot of people are wondering who's the leader of the Democratic Party right now, right? I mean, yeah, Kamala Harris, she lost the election, but is she still basically the de facto leader of the party? She sort of disappeared. She's shown up and done some word salad out in California talking about the fires and what have you, but do you consider her the leader? I guess until somebody else is a presidential nominee, she's the de facto leader. Maybe Joe Biden should be considered the leader. Where is Joe, by the way? He's been awfully quiet for somebody so full of vim and vigor and on the top of his game. Sharp as a tack, I believe they said Joe Biden was. Maybe Jill Biden's actually the leader of the Democrats. Or is it Hakeem Jeffries? Is it Chuck Schumer? Is it, I don't know. Honestly, I couldn't tell you. What I can tell you, though, is that whenever a Democrat with a loud voice and a major platform steps up and tries to sound off against the Trump administration, they show themselves to be just absolute idiots. So instead of playing the contest, who's the leader of the Democratic Party, let's play a different one. Who, in fact, is the dumbest Democrat on the national stage right now? We've narrowed it down to 3 for you, and we'd love for you to vote in the chat or in the comments here. In fact, maybe we should just throw a poll up there. Here are your nominees. Nominee number 1, you know her, you love her, you may have ordered a beautiful Maker's Mark Manhattan up from her at one point in a bar. She is, of course, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
Doge did not exist 2 years ago. 19-year-olds were not raiding the Treasury 2 years ago. People who have no idea with medical background have not been hauling in and creating kangaroo courts for scientists to dismiss them 2 years ago. That started happening now. Elon Musk is not a scientist. He is not an engineer. He is a billionaire con man with a lot of money. He does not have this kind of good background. And in fact, while there's some disruption over that, I sincerely ask you all to examine what expertise he has in approving medical devices, in biomedical engineering devices. And if you all think that he is an expert in that, I've got a bridge to nowhere to sell you. These are people's lives that are on the line, and we cannot laugh them away. Genuinely, please, I am asking you to please support this amendment for the people who have medical devices stuck in their body. Thank you. And
All right, so where to begin? First of all, I don't think Elon Musk has positioned himself to make decisions about people's medical devices, whether they're in someone's body or not. Number 2, Elon Musk is not a scientist or an engineer. He's a billionaire con man. I do love the fact that these Democrats who absolutely, I mean, they deified Elon Musk right up until the moment he bought Twitter and allowed people to express their opinion freely. Right up until that moment, they loved him. You should go back and look at what they said about him because he was going to save the planet, because he invented a great new process for building electric vehicles. Tesla was going to save the world, they said. Now they want to, she bought a Tesla. She used to drive a Tesla. She would often get caught double parking it in front of the Whole Foods down at Navy Yard. There was somebody at Free Beacon, the Washington Free Beacon, who lived in the building where the Whole Foods was, and he would just sit on his balcony waiting for AOC to double park and illegally park her Model 3 right in front there as she ran in to grab her quinoa bowl or turkey wrap. She loved Elon Musk. They all loved Elon Musk, and rightly so, but they hate the fact that Elon Musk loves freedom and loves government efficiency, and even worse, loves Donald Trump. Now they hate him. And so now they have to disparage him. So when your political party is in a position where the only winning argument you've got is to tell the American people that Elon Musk is an idiot, and that he's a con man, where he's sitting astride multiple groundbreaking, revolutionary technological advances for our planet, including the most effective aerospace program we have ever seen. Okay. If that's where you want to be, either AOC is a brilliant liar, or she really believes that she really believes that Elon Musk is an idiot. He's not smart. He's not an engineer. He's not a scientist. And he's just a con man. Fantastic. All right. That's candidate number one for stupidest Democrat. All right. Your nominee number two, you know her. You love her. You admire the dead butterflies that she pastes on her eyelids every morning as eyelashes. From the great state of Texas, here's your favorite Congresswoman, Jasmine Crockett.
Instead, we're pushing conspiracy theories, and some of them are killing people. It's the same thing that we have coming out of Doge. It's the reason that people are dying. It's the reason that farmers are losing their farms, because we continue to peddle conspiracy theories. It is time for us to say, Mr. President, guess what? Russia invaded Ukraine. Can we at least agree on that one? Facts matter. Y'all, this is literally potentially putting us into an international crisis. We may be heading towards the next world war because we have a president that wants to pal around with Putin and wants to do everything to make him feel good, including lying about who invaded who.
All right. Now, the topic of discussion was the peace deal to end the war in Ukraine, between Russia and Ukraine. And by the way, as the time of this streaming show, President Zelensky is scheduled to be at the White House to have a Rose Garden signing ceremony, although they might do it indoors depending on the weather, with President Trump over rare earth mineral rights that the United States of America will have access to in Ukraine, thus ensuring a security footing and a financial investment in that nation that should cement the American-Ukrainian relationship that goes well beyond them taking our money and buying weapons to kill people. This means that there will be a peace deal and a road to peace with Russia, and we ain't going anywhere, and Russia ain't budging, because if they make 1 inch of an infringement into Ukraine once we're there, then they're picking a fight with us instead of their little stepbrother Ukraine. So this is the way you get peace. This is a way you get a lasting peace that America has a vested interest in, because right now the American people are saying, why are we doing this? What have we got out of it? Right? Even Europe is throwing $100 billion to Ukraine as a loan. They want the money back. Meanwhile, we're just giving them a blank check, right? So here, this is a legitimate, intelligent way to make a peace that we have a stake in now, and Russia knows that. And just like when Trump was president last time around, Putin ain't going to mess with Trump. So what Jasmine Crockett is telling you, what she is saying on behalf of her party, and what she is displaying to the entire world, that Donald Trump's path to peace in settling and ending the war right now in Ukraine will lead us to World War III. This peace agreement will lead us to World War III. Make it make sense, my friends, because I can't. I'm not dumb enough. I'm sure someone with an advanced degree in international studies from George Washington University understands this. You have to have some kind of an advanced degree, preferably a doctorate, from a liberal arts college in the United States of America to be dumb enough to understand that this peace deal leads us to World War III. All right, there's nominee number 2. And nominee number 3, I'm afraid that we're picking on the ladies, right? So far, we've got 2 young women, and I don't want anyone to think that we're misogynist. We are not. Also, by the way, 2 women of color. I don't want anyone to think we're racist. We're not MSNBC. No. We are absolutely, we love the diversity of stupidity that the Democrats embrace right now. So, ladies and gentlemen, I bring you the governor of the great state of Illinois. His name is JB, but we like to think that JB stands for Jabba because he looks a little like the iconic figure from the Star Wars movies. He's a little girthy, a little husky. From here up, that's one thing. But boy, oh boy, what's going on down there? He's a big man. He is JB Pritzker. Take it away, Jabba.
Oh, you got to remember that the things that I'm speaking out about now about, the threat to our democracy, this is not a message to win elections on. It's something people need to know. They need to know that that's happening. But, if you talk to 100 people, knock on 100 doors, and I've knocked on an awful lot of doors running for office, and you say to people, democracy is at risk, nobody knows what that looks like. They've never experienced it before.
Yeah.
And the reality is what people need to hear about is what the effects of that are. The prices at the grocery store are going up because democracy is being taken away. The impact on you in terms of your health care, 770,000 people in Illinois will lose health care as a result of what Donald Trump and Elon Musk and the Republican Congress are doing right now. It's a danger to your way of life. And that's what people need to understand. It's all about affordability. It's all about how you can, make it just a little bit easier for people every single day to live their lives. And they're taking that away from you. That is what it's like to have democracy taken away. So we need to bifurcate between educating people about democracy being taken away and talking to people about what the message ought to be about why they need to vote for Democrats.
I'm leaning toward Jabba here because my favorite kind of stupidity is the stupidity that is presented as a deep thought of and you heard the host there on MSNBC. Of course, it's on MSNBC with the so profound, so important. See, let me translate. I've lived in LA and in New York and in DC my entire life. I speak Democrat. Okay. I understand exactly what he's saying here. Let me translate. He's saying that we were right. We've always been right. We only lost the election because we didn't message properly. Right. We kept telling everyone that democracy was on the ballot, that the future of our democracy was at stake, and you can't vote for Trump because he's going to destroy our democracy. And no one believed us. Nobody understood that because they can't believe that that's happening, and they don't even know what the repercussions would be. Right. Because, again, understand something. Whenever Democrats said, hey, we were right on the issues, but it was just our messaging, what they're saying is you're too stupid to understand. You're too stupid to understand what we were saying. Or also, by the way, this is a bit of a side swipe against Kamala Harris. You're all too stupid. And by the way, word salad girl over there, she's too stupid to present the argument. This is JB Pritzker, Jabba. He is auditioning to be the leader of the Democrats. Little does he know that he's actually about to win the vote for stupidest Democrat, for dumbest Democrat. He's auditioning to be the nominee. He's running for president, I promise you, because he's a multi-gajillionaire. That's what Democrats do. They make all their money, and then they realize, well, all right, let's buy the next seat. I bought the governorship in Illinois, so I might as well buy the presidency. That's what he'll do. It's fine. He can try. He's saying that our message was right. Excuse me, our policies are right, our positions are right, we just didn't message them properly. And then he gives an example that, God bless it, I would have never gotten there exactly. I'm not dumb enough to ever come up with something this stupid and this inane. But God bless the governor of Illinois, the land of Lincoln. He says that Donald Trump's destruction of our democracy is why grocery prices are getting higher. Now, maybe he should take a moment or two to connect the dots for all of us. Maybe he should begin by explaining how Donald Trump's destruction of democracy in the last, 34 days, made grocery prices get higher starting in late 2021. When Joe Biden was president, and he passed the American Rescue Act, which every single economist with their salt will recognize, obviously, began the unbelievable ballooning inflation that we're still dealing with right now, including the prices at the grocery store. Maybe he should start by explaining that Donald Trump's threat to our democracy that we're now experiencing is what made inflation get so bad back during Biden's presidency. And maybe he's talking about egg prices, you may say. Oh, yeah. Donald Trump's threat to democracy is what forced the CDC under Joe Biden to decide to kill hundreds of thousands of chickens because of an avian flu crisis, thus driving up the cost of eggs. It's all Donald Trump's threat to democracy's fault. I can't even finish it with a straight face. I mean, listen, I've reported, you decide. I don't want to sway your vote. It's a tough one. But once again, we'll review. You got your AOC saying Elon Musk is just a con man billionaire without any sort of intelligence or expertise. You've got Jasmine Crockett saying that the path to peace in Ukraine is leading us to World War III. Or you got J.B. Pritzker telling you that Donald Trump's infringements on democracy is what making the grocery prices higher. It's a tough one, but we're looking forward to the results. Let us know right down below. All right, that's it. I'm hopping on an airplane, so I appreciate you watching, but I got to get out of here. We have no time to interact with the chat, sadly. And sorry, Kevin, if we've got super chats, I'm not able to acknowledge them, but I promise I'll acknowledge them on our next show. Thanks for watching. My name's Larry O'Connor. You can call me Larry.